So this is basically just a compilation of the last 4 Arsenal season reviews. I just thought this would be a cool thing to put together just because you get to really see a man slowly go insane with every single year that passes, and you also get to see my attitude change on certain things. I thought that was just, I don't know, kind of fascinating. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm definitely milking my suffering just a bit here. Enjoy!
Hopes were high for Arsenal, having been one of the top spending clubs in that window. We got a centre back in Ben White for 58 million. Martin Odegaard's loan spell was made permanent, and that was one of the transfers I was really excited about. Albert Sambi Lokonga and Nuno Tavares were some good young pieces that were brought in. But then came the controversy of the window. Aaron Ramsdale. Now, I wasn't like some of the brain-dead fan base that were crying and threatening Ramsdale, but at the time it was definitely a weird move for me. I didn't hate the move. For how bad Sheffield United's defense was, Ramsdale did all he could. The problem I had was the transfer fee. 28 million for a keeper that just relegated to the championship. It just didn't really sit right. And then finally, the last signing of that window, and by far my favorite, Takahiro Tomagotsu for 18.6 million. Why was he my favorite signing? Simple. Asian at Arsenal. The history of Asian players at Arsenal doesn't really have the best track record, so I was a little more hopeful with Tomiyasu. One of the key aspects of his game that was talked about a lot was his anticipation, and especially in the Premier League, that can put you at the very top of the pile. But we have to remember, the Premier League season actually starts in the middle of the transfer window, so most of the players I just mentioned that we bought in the summer window didn't actually get a chance to play until next month. And on top of that, the team had numerous injuries. To make things even worse, both Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexandre Lacazette were out due to illness, meaning we had to start Folarin Balogun in our first match. Don't get me wrong, I love Folarin.
Please join the US.
But starting a player who had just 72 minutes of senior football wasn't exactly ideal. So in the end, we were shocked by a newly promoted Brentford side which continued the streak of rocky starts Arsenal had throughout the last few years. I was pissed, a lot of fans were. But looking back, that was a lot of blind anger, because you have to remember, there were just a lot of injuries going on, a lot of our players were missing, and not to mention some of our transfers weren't even done yet. However, in our eyes, we didn't see it that way. We just saw the fact that after 2 years, still nothing had changed under Mikel Arteta. I had been on the trust the process copium, but my patience was very quickly running out. Then Man City and Chelsea came along, and we were terrible. When you force yourself to watch Pablo Mari defend, all you feel is a sense of dread.
Why, God, why?
So yeah, after our third match when we lost 5-0 to Manchester City, I really was strongly on Arteta out. I didn't know who we'd replace him with, but I just thought his time was over. There was actually a moment in time during the season where I thought if we kept Mikel Arteta, we'd be fighting to survive relegation. It was that bad. But just when the lake of hope dried up, a river of false hope flowed slowly into said lake. Arsenal beat Norwich, and better yet, Tomiyasu's debut was solid. Then the Gunners went to Burnley, another 1-0 win. And to end off September, we destroyed Spurs at home. In just 3 weeks, Arsenal had turned it around completely. And Takahiro Tomagotsu was voted Player of the Month. Exceptional Asian talent in really any top sport is kind of rare, whether that be because of family values, influencing paths, or just ignorance in scouting. So for me, it means the world to see an Asian excelling at my favorite club. Like, I am genuinely getting the same feeling I had when Linsanity happened.
Hi, it's Maqwell from 2025. I'm gonna be real with you, G. That's an insult to Linsanity. And like, I love Tomagotsu.
I was still skeptical though. Norwich are Norwich. The Burnley match was questionable at times too. The partnership between Gabriel and Ben White was slowly coming to pass, but there were still some shaky moments. But as long as they'd continue to learn from each other and become stronger, I'd be happy. And then there was Tottenham, which, don't get me wrong, we destroyed them. We deserved that victory. But Nuno's Tottenham were garbage. There's one thing losing 3-0 to Crystal Palace away. There's another thing only having 2 shots the entire match and also having less than 40% of the possession.
How'd he do that? No idea.
However, as more matches played out, the more I was happily proven wrong, and Arteta ball was starting to become much more beautiful by the week. Brighton was a struggle, but Palace you could see how fluid the passing was getting, even if it was for 15 minutes. Aston Villa saw more of that quick passing play, and boom, another solid win against Leicester away. And remember all those critics, including myself, who doubted Ramsdale? Well, I'll just let Nicky say it. Aaron Ramsdale is the real deal. His saves may be a little overdramatic, but at least he makes the stops. We were begging for a keeper who could distribute the ball and benefit our build-up play. Ramsdale is exactly that guy. In November, Arsenal played a club that Maurizio Zamparini would be proud of, and Emile Smith-Rowe continued his brilliant form, scoring the only goal. The next match was Liverpool.
Let's give it away. Poorly, chance here, Jota, surely, 2-0.
Hey look, it's Tomiyasu's first assist! December is probably one of my favorite months of the year, mainly because everything feels a little more jolly. But remember, I support a club that makes it its #1 priority to always drop my mental health. Man United at Old Trafford was looking promising, but then Arsenal man appeared from the shadows. Then we played Everton, and Arsenal never looked sharp in that match. After being 1-0 down early on and having 2 goals disallowed, the Toffees never gave up. Richarlison scored in the 80th minute, and then Damari Gray's belter gave Everton all 3 points. However, Arsenal bounced back with wins against Southampton, West Ham, Leeds, and Norwich to end 2021 in 4th place. The promised land, the homeland. We've returned, for now at least. Next was a New Year's Day bout against Manchester City. I had to wake up at 7 a.m. for this match, which is unheard of for me on the first day of the year. But it was so absolutely worth it because I saw by far the best football from this club I had seen in the last 4 years. We were overwhelming Manchester City, and eventually Bukayo Saka opened the score. Man City were quite literally losing to a man wearing an AirPod. Unfortunately, in the second half, Xhaka returned to Old Xhaka and gave away a penalty. And just to make things even better, Rodri stole the win at the death for City. The next few weeks were pretty forgettable. Nottingham Forest eliminated us from the FA Cup, Liverpool sent us packing in the Carabao Cup semis, and finally we drew against Burnley at home. We also didn't make any quality January signing. But honestly, I don't really know why people were expecting a quality signing in January. We had already spent so much money. Our owner is Stan Kroenke. Like, we've been over this so many years, how have we forgotten now? But Aubameyang did leave for Barcelona, and it was overdue, really. Ever since signing Da Ting, Aubameyang has just looked very washed. Sometimes a footballer just needs new scenery, and that's what Aubameyang needed, because now he's excelling at Barcelona under Xavi, so good for him. But one international break later, and Arsenal went on an incredible run of form. For the first time in a long time, watching Arsenal actually made me happy. Wolves this year are a hard team to break down, but we did it twice. And the second time around is easily one of my favorite Arsenal matches of the season. Nicolas Pepe off the bench levels the score in the 82nd minute, and then Alexandre Lacazette, who didn't have a single thing go his way throughout the entire night, never gave up. He scored the winner in the 90 plus 5th minute of the match. Well, actually, it was a Jose Sa own goal, but that was besides the point. We had just come back from 1-0 down in a matter of less than 10 minutes. It was incredible to watch, and what made it even better was the atmosphere in the Emirates. I have no idea what's been going on, but this season, the stadium's been loud. For years, it had been mocked for being a library. It was just so refreshing. Arsenal then went on to beat Watford away and then Leicester at home. Liverpool was next, and had Lacazette not been so selfless, things could have gone differently.
Diogo Jota.
Aston Villa away, I was a little scared we'd drop points, but Bukayo Saka said otherwise. Another win. Later after the match, Saka criticized some of the refs, and for good reason. This is a dangerous challenge, and it was happening throughout the entire match. But ESPN FC. Oh, ESPN FC. For decades, ESPN has covered football very poorly. Add on top of the fact that now ESPN is slowly dying, they are trying to be relevant in the worst way possible, by making the most asinine takes this world has ever seen. And Ali Moreno's take on the whole Saka situation is just one of many different examples we could talk about.
Oh, you're a skillful player. I see. Oh, you're about pace. Don't you worry about it. Here I come, and I'm gonna make sure that when I have my chance, you're not gonna be able to use your pace. You're not gonna be able to use your skill, and I am gonna break you. Where's your skill now, buddy? Where's your speed now? Where's daddy and mommy now?
Oh my god, shut the f*** up! So, 10 more games remaining, and also multiple games in hand. There's a possibility we could even reach 3rd place Chelsea. I mean, it's incredible. We were at the very bottom of the table at the start, and now we're about to qualify for the Champions League. So, the last 2 weeks have been kinda shit. First, we lose to Palace 3-0. We weren't good, but credit to Palace, they've really put up a fight against some of the best teams this season. I mean, look at City. They could only grab just 1 singular point from 2 matches. So, it happens, right? We still got a game in hand. Just make sure it doesn't happen again. And then it happened again. This time against Brighton. In just 2 weeks, a hopeful advantage was bottled away, and now Tottenham are above us again. I love this game. Last time we talked about this godforsaken club, they were 5th behind Tottenham with a game in hand with 8 fixtures to go. Tottenham had lost to Brighton a few hours prior, so here was the perfect chance to overtake them. However, after losing to Palace and Brighton in previous fixtures, we extended our losing streak against Southampton. Get out of my head! Get out of my head! Get out of my head! Get out! It takes some real skill to lose a match against this Southampton side. They've literally been on a 6-game winless streak with 5 of them being losses. Even Charity FC were 3 away from creating the biannual St. Mary's tradition of making Southampton supporters contemplate existing. All credit to Fraser Forster though. We had 6 shots on target and he made 6 saves. Next was Chelsea away, and luckily for us, it was weed day and Thomas Tuchel was celebrating. Arsenal drew first blood thanks to Christensen's Barcelona daydreaming, and Eddie Nketiah finishes cool and calmly. However, physics went in Timo Werner's favor and Chelsea responded almost immediately. But then a counter-attack 10 minutes later, capped off by Croydon De Bruyne, gave Arsenal back the lead. But of course, we can never make things any easier for ourselves. Nuno Tavares takes a nap in the box, and Cesar Azpilicueta equalizes for Chelsea after just 5 minutes. In the second half, Chelsea's circus show continued in the back, with yet again Eddie Nketiah capitalizing. Then some dodgy officiating at the end of the match gave Arsenal a penalty. Saka converted, 4-2, game set. Outside of the AIDS decision at the end, Arsenal were extremely impressive in this match. It actually gave me hope that we could finish top 4. That's right, boys. It's time to inject that false f***ing hope. Things would not get easier though. They'd actually get a lot easier. Next was Manchester United at home. United's defense, less durable than that of a home ceiling in Texas during a blizzard, gifted Nuno Tavares an early goal. 30 minutes later, yet another Saka penalty doubles the lead. However, Ronaldo had other ideas. Fighting through the adversity of that week, he scores his 100th Premier League goal. Arsenal start to look a bit shaky in the back themselves, and then a handball awards United a chance to equalize.
Kiss my ass, brat boy!
Arsenal take full advantage of United's bottery, and the Emirates witnesses the annual Xhaka banger. 3-1, and all of a sudden, that 3-game losing streak didn't look too detrimental. And a few hours after that result, again Spurs dropped points, this time versus Christian Eriksen and Brentford, meaning we were back in the homeland 2 points clear with 5 fixtures remaining. Also great news for the entire world, Tomagotsu made his return and then was almost sent back for another 4 months by Ronaldo. West Ham away was a fixture I highlighted as being a pretty tough job, and with Ben White out due to injury, I was even more concerned. But thanks to Robert Holdini and Gabriel, Arsenal grabbed their 3rd straight victory in a hard-fought battle. Again, just like the Chelsea match, I can't ignore the fact that there were a couple favorable calls here or there for us. The match did, however, prove yet again that Eddie Nketiah should not be the answer to all our problems up front. He shows great potential, has amazing positioning. His finishing, though, not that great. Jesse Marsch's Leeds at the Emirates was next. Eddie Nketiah took advantage of yet another defensive error and 1-0 to the Arsenal. 5 minutes later, he doubles that tally. We're pretty much running riot at this point. Leeds go down to 10 men, and this should be even easier for us. But remember who you're talking about. Arsenal love to do this thing where they make everything so much harder than it really should be. Leeds kept growing into the match, Arsenal kept missing great opportunities, and once Leeds brought one back, I was so fucking nervous. But luckily, after some shaky performances in the back, we win 2-1. And thanks to Tottenham drawing in Liverpool, it meant Arsenal were 4 clear of Spurs, meaning a win in our next fixture, the North London Derby, would clinch top 4. Finally, after 5+ grueling years, Arsenal would be back in the Champions League.
Harry Kane for Tottenham. Scores!
Ah! What a game. To make things that oh so even better for us was that Rob Holding was starting this match. Man had already gotten a yellow card a couple minutes into the match, and you'd think to yourself, okay, well, he'll be careful, just like how Ben Davies was.
He's on, the space is behind, and Arteta just wants him to come up the pitch, and I don't blame him by being a little bit fearful of Son. There he is making another run. Oh.
Robert Holding! God damn it! What the f***? I knew this would happen! You don't learn! Robert! You are on a f***ing yellow! Why would you mark Son that tight still? It is the 32nd f***ing minute! So anyways, MBE Harith Edward Kane V doubled the lead with the Arsenal defense looking absolutely shambolic. But in all fairness, the whole team was looking shambolic. In very classic Antonio Conte fashion, Spurs were just pressing high pretty much the entire match, preventing us from playing out from the back. And it worked for them. But why the f*** did we continue playing from the back? There are other ways to move the ball around where we could actually find some space and find some chances, which we never f***ing did.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Into the second half, Son makes it 3-0.
Chance for the rebound and goal. Heung-min Son.
Oh, Lord above, give me the strength to continue life. And so, we bottled. Hard. There was not a single good performance from that Arsenal team. Not one. It was like watching a bunch of young kids pissing themselves in Tottenham's new toilet bowl stadium. But honestly, I kind of expected that. I went into this match hyped and thinking, there's a chance. A very slim one though. I mean, A, we're going up against Antonio Conte, who knows his shit. And B, it's the youngest team in the Premier League, and we don't even have our full strength squad. But still, it just seemed like there was no fight, no drive, no hunger. As much as I love seeing Nketiah do well, let's be fair here. He's only earned a couple starts because of some defensive errors. I still 100% prefer Lacazette over him. As I've said before about Lacazette, in no way is he a good finisher at all, but he never gives up. He always tries to find that extra inch, and he's also a great leader to this team. And without him, we don't really have any leadership. But despite this loss, Arsenal are still in the driver's seat, 1 point above Tottenham. All we have to do is simply win out our 2 remaining matches and we're into the Champions League. Simple as. The Saudi Public Investment Fund away was the first of the 2, and oh boy, Ben White's back. The Magpies were in really good form, but surely we'd bounce back from that awful loss against Tottenham and defeat new Saudi Arabia. But believe it or not, we were even worse in this match. Let me put this into perspective, okay? Newcastle throughout the entire season have averaged the least amount of possession in the entire league. 37%. And that first half, Arsenal had 34% of the possession. 34. We were being dominated by the team averaging the least amount of possession in the entire league throughout the entire season. 34. And then on top of that, we had only completed 71% of our passes. Newcastle 84. Oh boy! And good God, Alan Saint-Maxima was cooking up a whole buffet, all you can eat at Golden Corral. God, could this just get any worse? No! So yeah, nothing really changed that second half besides a Ben White own goal, yippee, and I think it was Guimaraes who scored the second goal. To be honest, I kind of saw this happening yet again. I know, I'm just like a psychic like that. I know everything. I know what you're eating right now. But that loss made me feel horrible. And you know what I did a couple hours later? Watch the last few episodes of Your Lie in April. I haven't had that bad of a day in a long time. But yeah, we blew it. And Tottenham defeated Burnley a day prior. So you know what that means. A tough end of the season, but let's pause for a second because knowing our past, let's not forget that things could be worse. We could be currently having our personal data
stolen. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Fellas, we've all been there. We quickly need information for navigation, or we're trying to figure out who the top scorer of the Latvian 9th division is. But the service around us sucks, so we do what any sheep does and frantically scramble for the free Wi-Fi. Yippee! Now you know how to get to that tourist attraction, or you found out there's no actual Latvian 9th division. But little did you know that behind the scenes, your credit card information was stolen. And soon after, you see a transaction for 20,000 copies of Tom MacDonald's new album. Don't make this same mistake again. Get Surfshark to use its humanized privacy and security solutions to safeguard your data and browse with free Wi-Fi safely. With Surfshark, you can also access region-locked content anywhere in the world thanks to its over 3,200 servers in 100 different countries. And today, I got a fantastic deal for y'all. If you use my link displayed on the video or in the description, you can get Surfshark for an extra 4 free months. And there's no risk in trying this out because Surfshark has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So use my link surfshark.com/Mac to access region-locked content anywhere in the world and keep your private info safe. And a big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video.
In terms of this season for Arsenal, although kind of disappointing right at the end, I'm still very happy with what I've seen throughout the entire campaign. I mean, all the way back before the Premier League season even started, I predicted Arsenal finishing 8th, and they have far exceeded those expectations. Being that close to Champions League football with the team we have is really impressive in all honesty. And being able to grind out results with so many players out made this campaign even more special. But here's the big problem with Arsenal. The depth. Depth is so important when it comes to qualifying for the Champions League. Every time we placed in the top 4, I was wondering how long it would last, because our depth is as shallow as half of the people I went to high school with. I mean, if your main backup defender is Rob Holding, you're in a bit of trouble, man. I've heard that El Neni would be happy to stay at the club and doesn't really care about his playtime. He just knows he'll have to fight for it. I think that's a prime example of a player that we need to keep at the club, someone who is willing to fight for any position. And those are the types of players that can easily improve our depth. Oh yeah, and then on top of the depth stuff, striker. We need a new striker. Really badly. Eddie Nketiah has 5 goals. He's our best scoring striker this season. And maybe we should trust in Nketiah. No, we shouldn't. Just have him as a backup, please. But to round off this entire video, Arteta has done a really good job at transforming this team. I understand that it's been a very, very slow process, but you're really starting to see things blossom, and I'm confident that goes on into the next season. So in the summer, we started off with buying the likes of 19-year-old right winger Marquinhos for 3.5 million. It seems like he'll be taking the same path as Martinelli when it comes to development. We also got 28-year-old goalkeeper Matt Turner for 6.3 million. A solid backup, good reactions, and he's pretty good on the ball as well, which is something that Arteta wants. We also got 22-year-old attacking midfielder Fabio Vieira. He was pretty solid for Porto and will be a good addition to the Arsenal attack. And then came the big guns. 25-year-old Alexander Zinchenko for 35 million. Which is an absolute bargain for a left back of his caliber. He can play practically anywhere, whether that's as a left back, his primary position, or even as a midfielder, which he usually plays when he's with the Ukrainian national team. Finally, there was our brand new striker, 25-year-old Gabriel Jesus for 52.2 million. 63 goals and 113 starts. More importantly though, with Pep's influence, Jesus is extremely flexible. You can play him as primarily a number 9 or even as a winger. And last season, he was excellent down the flanks, scoring 8 goals and 8 assists in 28 appearances. With an improved squad, the goal was to qualify for the Champions League for the first time since 2016. It would not be easy though. Man United now had Erik ten Hag, a proven manager. Tottenham made really good signings in Richarlison and also Ivan Perisic. Chelsea, being Chelsea, once again bought the entire market, but this time with Terry Smith 2.0. Liverpool also got some reinforcements to and how could I forget? Man City has doomed us all. Our first match was against a team that had troubled us last year, Crystal Palace. However, we looked pretty in pink as Arsenal went on to win 2-0. League debuts of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus looked very exciting. And speaking of debuts, after being initially bought as an 18-year-old in 2019, who was then sent to Wee Wee Baguette land on loan multiple times, William Saliba made his debut 3 years later and was unbeatable in the back. Now, I know it was the first game, but we should at least mention some of the struggles that Arsenal had. After we scored the initial goal, we kind of let off the gas a little too much and allowed Palace to play, and they nearly punished us a few times. Next was our first home match of the season against Leicester City, and it was over before it even started. Jesus opened his account in brilliant fashion with 2 goals as we won 4-2. Followed by that result was a trip to the beaches of Bournemouth, where under the tune of a certain song from the late 50s, Arsenal baked a delectable cherry pie. Then came Fulham at home. Led by the brute of Serbian nationalism, JCCFC was able to collect 4 points in their first 3 games. They continued that form with Alexander Mitrovic pickpocketing Gabriel to shock the Emirates. Now, if this was between the years of 2016 to 2020, this game would have been over. I would have lived the rest of the day in complete dread. But as I've mentioned time and time again, this team is different. Martin Odegaard replies just 8 minutes later, and then in the 86th minute, Gabriel redeems himself. Arsenal hold on and win their 4th straight match. Aston Villa away then finished off the packed month of August. After dominating throughout the first half, Gabriel Jesus phones in and scores another. The Gunners continued to pepper the goal, but to no avail. And unfortunately, when you anger the football gods, they strike in the cruelest of fashions. However, fate and destiny were no match for Martinelli, the Redeemer. So after 5 games played, the Gunners weren't just in a Champions League spot. Oh no. They were top of the league. We haven't been this far up in 5 match days since 2013. September, though, opened with Manchester United at Old Trafford. Man United suffered 2 humiliating losses to begin the season. However, with one video, I jinxed this team to high heaven and they won their next 3 games. 11 minutes played, though, Saka plays in Gabriel Martinelli, who silences Old Trafford. Unfortunately, the goal is called off due to a foul leading up to the play. Arsenal continued to dominate, but it would be 360 no-scope man to give Man United the lead. However, Bukayo Saka had other things to say in the 60th minutes. But unfortunately, Mikel Arteta decided to play a very unnecessarily high line, and Marcus Rashford exposed us twice because of it. Thus, the unbeaten league run ends at 5. That loss was a good learning experience for one of the youngest teams in the league, though. We dominated throughout the entire match, but that doesn't really matter unless there's, goals being converted. Arsenal bounced back in their first Europa League group stage game against Zurich. That event also had the pleasure to reveal to me that the Queen died. That's right. I learned about the Queen's death through a Europa League match. Brentford followed and we absolutely demolished them. Then there was Tottenham right at the beginning of the next month. The last time these two met, Tottenham thrashed Arsenal and pretty much killed off their Champions League hopes.
Chance for the rebound and goal. Heung-min Son.
Oh, Lord above, give me the strength to continue life.
Although, Arsenal, having remembered this, went on a killing spree at the Emirates thanks to Reece Nelson, Gabriel Jesus, and Granit Xhaka. Things would not get any easier though, because next was Liverpool. And despite Liverpool struggling in 9th, this is just one of those matches you expect Arsenal to bottle. However, Gabriel Jesus didn't care about any of that and in just 57 seconds opens the score. Perhaps the times truly are a-changing. Never mind, we just let white Lukaku score. Fortunately for us though, Trent Alexander-Arnold's defending was being exposed more than CryptoZoo. However, before the second half, Jurgen Klopp made the best decision of the season. He subbed off Trent. And that immediately pays off as Bobby Firmino for the 200th time comes to haunt the Emirates. However, in the 72nd minute, with Arsenal attacking left and right, a penalty is awarded. The foul in question... Bukayo Saka then clutches up, converts at the spot, and Arsenal defeat Liverpool in a spectacular match of football. Now, you might have noticed something. We were playing Liverpool, so where was Mo Salah? The rest of the month saw us play 4 more Europa League games. In 1 month. God, don't you just love the absolute thoughtfulness for player safety in this sport? It also saw us play Leeds, where after an initial 40-minute power surge, Arsenal barely escaped with a 1-0 win.
It goes over to the...
You can't keep getting away with it!
Finally, to end off the month of October, we deforested Nottingham. So after 12 games, Arsenal was still top of the league, just 2 points above Manchester City. Yeah, I can't really believe it either. Arsenal started November with a win against FC Zurich, which earned them top of their Europa League group. Next was Chelsea at Stamford Bridge.
Arsenal, nothing personal.
After single-handedly inflating the market, the Blues had already replaced their manager just 7 games in. I mean, this isn't exactly anything new for Chelsea. In the match, Arsenal would be a force Chelsea could never withstand, and a 63rd minute goal from Gabriel was enough to seal the deal.
Hey Alba, nothing personal, bro.
We followed that masterclass up with a loss to Brighton in the EFL Cup. Oh, the horrors. How will I ever be able to sleep again knowing that we're no longer in the Carabao Cup? Then right before the World Cup, Martin Odegaard sends 11 Wolves to the pound and Arsenal win 2-0. Top of the league on my birthday. Best birthday present I've ever received. Oh, by the way, does anyone get that same pre-COVID feeling with the World Cup? Because despite the tournament being like a month long, it feels like everything before it happened a year or more ago. Anyways, we returned to Premier League football in late December, and while I usually don't, I suppose this year I'll indulge in some Christmas ham. After that nice comeback was Brighton away on New Year's Eve. The Cannons took down Brighton with 3 shots in just 47 minutes. That guy Kaoru Mitoma then scored almost 20 minutes later. No worries though, as Gabriel Martinelli would finish off the Seagulls. However, much like Kenneth Copeland, Brighton just refused to die. Luckily, the third goal was harshly called off, and Arsenal earned another 3 points. Finally, there was third place Newcastle at home. If you recall this certified classic, Newcastle were the ones who put an end to our Champions League hopes for good last season. This match though would be different. It'd be a 0-0 result. But don't get me wrong, this wasn't just some uneventful awful 0-0. This was mentally exhausting. The teams went back and forth, each having their own spells, but not really the best of chances. And we especially were having trouble breaking down Newcastle. Not really a surprise, considering Newcastle going into this match had the best defense in the league. That, alongside any time a molecule touched a Newcastle player, they'd just fall down. It was kind of hard to generate any kind of momentum. Speaking of time wasting though, why the hell was there only 5 minutes of stoppage time? Were we watching the same game? My problems don't stop there though, because we should have had a penalty. There was an alleged handball, but I didn't really see too much from it. It looked like it was just someone's hand just happened to be there. However, here we see Gabriel with his shirt being basically torn off of him. And nothing is called. Okay, finally, and I mean it this time, just as long as I don't accidentally delete the video again. We had the other North London derby, this time away from home. Tottenham this season have not been the team that I thought they'd be. They're placed 5th right now, having already lost 5 matches, and they've conceded a decent amount of goals. The attack though looks better, it's the 3rd best in the league, but then you realize Harry Kane is pretty much the only reason for this. He scored 15 goals this season so far. His back is basically gonna be broken at the end of the season with all this carrying. With that all being said though, I just could not be confident about this match. Again, going back into history, something I just love to do. Arsenal have not won both North London derbies in a single season since 2014. That was 9 years ago. In fact, you could actually go back even further to the golden generation and see we barely ever won away against Spurs. But enough about history. You don't win the Prem worrying about history. 6 minutes in, Hugo Lloris, still having flashbacks of the World Cup, makes an error and Thierry Nketiah nearly opens the score. 7 minutes later, Lloris still hasn't realized where he is, and this time his error is costly.
What happened to his hand?
17 minutes played, here comes Son Heung-min now, but Ramsdale makes a brilliant save. Then the 35th minute, with all the space in the world, Martin Odegaard fizzes one into the bottom corner. Tottenham Stadium has gone completely silent. After that, it was all Arsenal in the first half. For the Gunners, it was like a relaxing training session with the Spurs players being used as training cones. However, if you know anything about this derby in the last 10 years, Harry Kane can never let us have our fun, but thankfully Aaron Ramsdale makes another great save. 2-0 at halftime. Optimism at its fullest. In fact, I may or may not have inquired about a game in May. However, Arsenal were in for a bit of a rude awakening in the second half. Tottenham let go of the past and focused on the now with a refreshed mindset and a newfound knowledge on how to actually press. Spurs were really starting to take the game by its neck early into the second half. Unfortunately for them though, every great chance was met by an even greater save by Aaron Ramsdale, who was an absolute wall that night. 2-0 the final score, and we have yet again defied history. I must be a dream. After an emphatic victory in the North London derby away from home, the first North London derby double for Arsenal since 2014, we were 8 points clear of Manchester City, having officially played half of the season now. Our next match would be against Manchester United at home, the only team we had lost to throughout the entire season so far. The days before the weekend weren't just busy for United though. Arsenal were doing their own business, in the transfer window in fact. Initially, we were looking into young winger Mykhailo Mudryk, pretty much on everyone's radar, but every single bid was rejected. That's when Terry Smith 2.0 and Chelsea came in and splashed 100 million euros. So Arsenal looked to alternatives like me currently with PC building. And that's when the links with Leandro Trossard started to brew up. Before falling out with coach De Zerbi, he had 7 goals and 16 appearances for Brighton. Trossard is like a hub of creativity, and he's very fluid in his way of play like Gabriel Jesus. He's also hardworking and can collect the ball from deep and progress forward efficiently with his excellent ball carrying ability. Just in general though, Arsenal and Brighton play pretty similar styles of football, so it really wouldn't take long for Trossard to adapt. We ended up successfully signing him for 24 million euros. This was also a proven player in the Prem, which is a perfect short-term solution to our winger depth. We also got ourselves another defender, because the only backup center back we have currently is Rob Holding. That defender though was Jakub Kiwior from Spezia, a young and strong defender who is linked with the likes of Roma. From what we've seen in the past with Serie A defenders going to the Prem, it usually seems to work out. Alright, enough exposition. It's time to get to the main event. Arsenal vs Manchester United. 2 juggernauts of the 2000s that fell down to their own personal rock bottoms throughout the last 2 decades. And after years of being in constant ruts every single season, both realized they had to change their old-fashioned ways. Now, alas, we finally see 2 sleeping giants awaken from a hibernation that has brought nothing but dread and suffering to both fan bases in the past. A nostalgia of old times now re-emerges that not only replenishes those who lived it, but those who watched on the internet to live out the better days in their own way. Because for the first time in what feels like eons, the Arsenal vs Manchester United rivalry means more than just earning some petty bragging rights. This is Celtics vs Lakers, Steelers vs Cowboys, Scorpion vs Sub-Zero, the mailman vs the dog. A win for Arsenal all but puts a massive pothole in the middle of United's hopes. But a win for United shrinks the point differential between the two to just 5 points with plenty of time remaining. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? 16 minutes played, Marcus Rashford in 3 Michelin star form cooks his marker and adds a spectacular finishing garnish. 1-0 Manchester United, and the Emirates is silent. But Arsenal weren't going to let that slide, however, especially after this salute. 23 minutes played, the Xhaka redemption tour continues as his delivery finds Eddie Nketiah. I mean, it couldn't possibly be vintage Man United vs Arsenal without a Thierry. Minutes later though, here's a chance for Scott McTominay, but Aaron Ramsdale shows off those dead cat-like reflexes. Then right before the half, Saka tries to find an opening, but his shot is blocked. At the beginning of the second half, Mikel Arteta decides to sub off a struggling Ben White. And enter Takahiro Tomagotsu, baby. The Tomagotsu effect is ready to strike. 52 minutes played, Bukayo Saka squares up the football AI, creates a pocket of space, and oh my dear lord, Bukayo, that is disgusting! 2-1 Arsenal. One of the best Bukayo Saka goals I think I've ever seen. Actually, it definitely was the best one. And what do you know? The Takahiro Tomagotsu effect, baby.
In by Ericsson, Ramsdale through the crowd. 2-2!
Shit. Now, as I've said in the last video, if this was years in the past, this game would have probably been done. It would have just ended 2-2. However, this is a new Arsenal. And remember, they've already lost to United before. They refuse to leave without a win here. The red shirts would swarm United's box, but the Red Devils were holding strong despite the psychological torture Arsenal were putting them through. But then, in the 83rd minute, the ball deflects like a pinball and falls right down to Thierry and Oh, f*** off! Why now, De Gea? At this point, we were dominating United. I don't even think within the last 10 minutes there was a single United player on our side of the pitch. It was like a hydraulic press video with United being squished slowly more and more by the seconds. But nothing was finding the net for us. It was starting to feel a little bit hopeless, actually. For as much invention and creativity that this team has, just didn't feel like anything was gonna go our way. It felt like this game was just gonna end 2-2. However, 89 minutes played, Zinchenko squares it to Ødegaard, who with a deft little touch picks out Thierry and and his heel sends the Emirates into absolute chaos. But wait 1 second, the goal might be offside. No, it ain't! No, it ain't! No, it ain't! 3-2, baby, 3-2! And so after 90 minutes of one of the best Premier League matches of the season, Arsenal snatch victory at the death and win 3-2. With that result, the Gunners were now 5 points above second place Man City with a game in hand. Funnily enough, our next match was against Man City, but not in the league. Instead, it was in the FA Cup, where the Citizens beat us 1-0. The following week saw the return of league fixtures, and Arsenal would play Everton away from home. Everton up to this point had been performing terribly and were tied for bottom of the table. But luckily for Evertonians, Mikel Arteta's kryptonite is Goodison Park, and a couple days before the fixture, Everton appointed Sean Dyche as their new manager, and it so happens that Brexit football is another one of Arteta's kryptonites. Under his charge, the Gunners have only ever beaten Sean Dyche once in 5 games. However, if I can overcome my fear of Michael Jackson's face in the late 2000s, then Mikel Arteta can sure as hell overcome 2 of his own fears.
And from McNeil.
I lied. It still terrifies me. But lucky us, Pep Guardiola had to face his own kryptonite the very next day. Tottenham away from home for some reason. I have never screamed more after a Harry Kane goal and hope to never again in my life. However, thanks to our North London rivals saving our asses, the gap was still 5 points. Going back to the Everton match though, I didn't get to watch it, but even looking at the highlights, it was still pretty concerning. Arsenal looked sloppier more than usual, and it's not like Everton stole those points. In fact, I would say they were the better team throughout. But hey, it's just one game. Is what I would have said had we not done the same exact thing in the first half against Brentford. Had any Brentford attacker been a little more composed than me seeing a baddie at the club, it would have been 2-0 to them. And while Arsenal slightly improved into the early stages of the second half, Brentford were looking even more threatening. Nevertheless, in the 66th minute, Arsenal scored against the momentum through substitute Leandro Trossard, a man with the creative abilities of René Magritte and the face of a sleepless engineering student. But Brentford didn't give up and returned the favor just 8 minutes later. There were suspicions of the goal being offside, however those claims were laid to rest and the goal was counted. Only problem was, they forgot to look at the entire play. Listen, it's one thing missing something that happened maybe further back. It's a much bigger problem though when you miss it against the player who literally created the f***ing goal. I'm genuinely convinced that you could take a random stranger off the street, put him in the VAR room, and they'd do just as well as an actual qualified official. Quote-unquote qualified. This time around, we were not so lucky as Man City comfortably took down Aston Villa, and now the gap was just 3 points, with the next game being the long-awaited top-of-the-table clash. City entered the Emirates with a pretty standard lineup, but because of the lack of depth at left-back, Bernardo Silva would have to play as a makeshift fullback. And as Silva isn't a natural defender, this was a massive disadvantage for City. Arsenal, on the other hand, would see their typical lineup, with the return of Takahiro Tomagotsu. Takahiro didn't start well, however, as he was easily beaten by Haaland, but luckily there was no other player in blue to receive the striker's cross. 5 minutes later, Arsenal's turn now. Zinchenko delivers a wonderful ball to a completely wide open Nketiah. But that was a really good look, a play that we have perfected throughout the entire season. Simply put, if we could just keep this up, it was only a matter of time when we'd see the Emirates explode like it has never before.
By Haaland.
Yes!
Is
that your goat? Is that your goat? Tomafratsu?
I'm getting cooked on Twitter for this one. But have no fear, Arsenal fans, because poor officiating never left. City were not letting off the gas, however, as they nearly went ahead again right before the half. But at halftime, Arsenal were dominating possession and had more shots. Unfortunately, none of this mattered because both teams only had 1 shot on target, and Man City were utilizing their possession a lot better than we were. Into the second half, and it's Arsenal's worst nightmare. City have taken full control. However, thank for the offside rule. But City kept mowing down anything in their path searching for that second goal. And then, the breakthrough happened.
Breakfast football club. Bernardo Silva.
Just clear the f***ing ball!
Gundogan. And Greenish!
Yes! Yes!
Snatches back a Champions League!
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
10 minutes later, the milk-drinking cyborg gets in on the action, and that's game. With my happiness and hope slowly dwindling, so was Arsenal's position in the table now. Thanks to a far superior goal difference, City were now back on top as Arsenal were on a 3-game winless streak. But again, the Gunners still had a chance to pull ahead with that 1 game in hand. Arsenal a week later would travel to Birmingham and play Aston Villa, who were now managed by none other then Unai Emery. 5 minutes played, Ollie Watkins dances with William Saliba, sends a laser past Ramsdale, and Emery's revenge tour is off to a fantastic start. However, Bukayo Saka says otherwise and responds just 10 minutes later. But once more, the Arsenal defense gets exposed by Emery. Coutinho scores, and now Arsenal are actively kissing their title hopes goodbye. Nonetheless, unlike the second half against City, the Gunners activated. And after a few close chances, the Ukrainian Swiss Army knife fizzes it into the bottom corner, and now it's 2-all. Arsenal continued to pepper the goal, and then came the moment with 15 minutes remaining as Ødegaard slides it into the net. Aston Villa were refusing to lie down and die though, as both teams were going at each other's throats. Then, the second minute of stoppage time, Jorginho with a Hail Mary hits the bar, but then the ball bounces off Emi Martinez's head into the net. Once a gunner, always a gunner. Finally, with the last kick of the match, Martinelli scores a fourth off a counter-attack and Arsenal win an insane thriller. This team was on a 3-game winless streak coming into this. They were behind in the match twice, but in spite of it all, they had incredible resolve and found their path through the darkness. Not only was this an important win for Arsenal's title hopes, it was also a vital result for the team's morale. And by the grace of the gods, Nottingham Forest have stolen a point against Manchester City. All of a sudden, I now believe New Zealand is one of the largest countries in the world. Throughout the next 2 match days, Arsenal earned another 2 victories in matches against Leicester and Everton. Next was Bournemouth, and what better way for the Gunners to show they were back in form by conceding in the first 17 seconds. Then before the hour mark, Arsenal concede again, and now the league lead shrinks to just 2 points. But you can never count out the comeback kids. 62 minutes played, Arsenal get one back and drastically shift the momentum their way. 8 minutes later, substitute Reece Nelson squares it across the goal to Ben White, who digs Arsenal's second goal across the line. Finally, right at the death, with tensions reaching ungodly levels, Reece Nelson on the edge of the box perfectly strikes a half volley into the net, and the whole stadium erupts into pandemonium. Arsenal once again do the impossible, and the league lead is back to a 5-point cushion. 5 days later, we played out a 2-all draw with Sporting in the Europa League. And I'll be honest, and I know this could bite me back in the ass, I don't really care that much about the Europa League this season, because for me, and also the fact that we don't have the greatest depth, it's just better to focus on one competition, and that competition be the one that we have the better chance of winning. Nonetheless though, we followed that result with a very comfortable win against Fulham. A few days pass, the second leg against Sporting is played, and we lose on penalties. Whatever, we move. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No. No. No! With Arsenal losing their best performing defender of the season, doubts about this title charge were starting to resurface again. However, the Gunners didn't let the concerns faze them as they defeated both Palace and Leeds 4-1. Not to mention, Gabriel Jesus was 100% back and even scored against Leeds. But it would only get more difficult because Arsenal's next match was Liverpool at Anfield. The Gunners thought otherwise though, as they treated the Liverpool backline like it was Leeds and went up 2-0 after just 28 minutes. Watching this game was insane. I had hope, but never in my mind did I think Arsenal would be running away with it this early on. And then we did something I feared. We pissed off Anfield, and if you remember anything from that heated argument between Klopp and Arteta back in 2021, you'll know that if you rile up Anfield just even a little bit, the momentum will shift so far Liverpool's side that not even the Galaxy 11 could defeat them. Just 1 minute after the little skirmish, Mo Salah pokes one into the net. Then 51 minutes played. Rob Holding happens. Now I know I may be a little too harsh on Rob Holding considering he has improved this season. Not to mention he did step up against both Palace and Leeds. But this is Liverpool we're talking about here, and he seems to always up in these big matches. Luckily for us though, the Senegalese lasers were still having their effect on Salah, but by no means did that calm the storm. In fact, Liverpool's attack turned into a Category 5 hurricane. And in the 86th minute, Liverpool finally found their equalizer through a man who continues to haunt every Arsenal fan imaginable. With the score now 2-all and the title race opened up, Arsenal were desperate to find the winner. Unfortunately though, Arteta had already subbed off our best attacking threat in the midfield for a defender. Now listen, Arteta's done really well with our substitutions. This is the one big outlier, and it so happens to be in one of the biggest games of the season. So instead of us searching for the goal and going for the kill, we were holding on for dear life. But in the end, thanks to Aaron Ramsdale's heroics, we luckily maintain a draw after initially being 2-0 up. This was a pretty massive blow to the title race, but there was no need to panic just yet. Next, Arsenal played West Ham and had an incredible response to all the questions and doubts throughout the week by scoring 2 early goals. West Ham would get one back through a penalty in the 32nd minute, however we earned a penalty of our own in the 51st minute and Bukayo Saka misses it horribly. And just minutes later, Jared Bowen scores the equalizer for West Ham, and once again, Arsenal bottle an early 2-goal lead. Even worse news, City won their fixture the previous day, meaning the gap was now just 4 points. Okay, whatever. Those games are in the past. We are still in the league, and our next match is against last place Southampton, at home. Perfect opportunity to grab all 3 points and get right back on track.
Great atmosphere, floodlights on, lovely pitch. They've got to play. And an error from Ramsdale. Alcaraz scores!
Already the fact that this had happened once in the season was bad enough. Twice, and I'm starting to think the football gods are f***ing with me. Oh, they are f***ing with me, alright. But hey, if lightning can strike in a bottle twice, what's stopping it from happening a third time? 5 minutes after the second Southampton goal, Saka squares it to Martinelli, who puts a line drive into the net, and the boys have their belief back.
Prowse without swing.
But do not give up hope yet, my friends. 87 minutes played, Martin Odegaard shrinks the deficit. There is still time. 89 minutes now, Nelson's shot is saved, but it falls right to the star boy himself. 3-3 at the Emirates. We refuse to bow down to the football god's scripts. First minute of stoppage time now. It's Leandro Trossard from the top rope, and he hits the crossbar. Unfortunately, that was the end, as Arsenal couldn't find another breakthrough in the Southampton defense, and the whistle blows. All that could be heard were roars that turned into an even louder eerie silence within a split second as players collapsed to the ground. This was the moment to create a temporary safe cushion, and they blew it for the 3rd straight week. Now that we're up to date, here's the table now. It's a bit deceiving because while Arsenal have a 5-point lead, City have 2 games in hand. One of those games, however, is against Arsenal this coming Wednesday as of this recording. So if Arsenal can somehow get a result against City, they can still have a 1 to 2 point lead over the reigning champions. But I'll be completely honest with you guys, I don't think that's happening. Since the beginning of February, Arsenal have had the 7th worst defense in the league. On top of that, it feels like our errors are starting to catch up with us. The urgency is growing in the league, so these types of errors just cannot be allowed. Also, City have only drawn once in their last 12 fixtures. They have seemingly conquered their struggles and are now in peak form at the best time of the season. Oh, and by the way, Saliba's still injured. I don't have any hope right now, but believe me, once that whistle blows on Wednesday, all that negativity flies out the window, and it's 100% belief.
It's f***ing time, baby! It's f***ing time! No more of this bottling. No more! No more, none of this disrespect. Who cares if we don't have Saliba? I don't care anymore. It's City Arsenal. If we beat them, and we f***ing will, we're going to win the f***ing league. We're winning the league.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
I mean, it's only 1-0. The New York Giants had like 7 losses, and they won the Super Bowl in 2007, okay? Still plenty of time. Consider this the regular season. I just want to have time to come, you know. I don't mind if there's like 1 minute of stoppage time. Wait, how many minutes we got? Tell me. Tell me.
So we're into 2 minutes of stoppage time.
2 minutes, oh thank God. Oh thank God. The torture doesn't have to last too long. God bless. I know the football gods always got me.
He makes a shape here that few others can.
Oh no.
Sake. Oh! Oh, it's offside! Oh, thank God! Oh, thank God! Oh, I always know the football gods got me. The Football Association was spitting when they put the offside rule in. What the f is oh, that does not look good. You can't do this to me. You can't do this to me.
Tom, this is going to be a goal.
Sick, man. Ah! Put me out of my misery. Bury me 6 foot deep. Actually, no, 12 foot deep. That way I don't even have to feel the aura of this game. Update the score. Ah, yeah. You're right. You know, I had hope for the first 6 minutes. Man City just always seemed to be 2 steps ahead of us, and Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, he was free to do whatever the hell he wanted. And man, when the City players would just stand over the ball for like 5 seconds, do nothing, all the while City fans in the stadium were just politely clapping, it was just fucking demoralizing, man. But hey, you know, it's only 2-0. We've been 2-0 down before. And perhaps Arteta can cook up the greatest halftime team talk the world has ever seen and will prevail and win this match. Sake, man. Why did I have hope? Arsenal did manage to get 1 back through Robert Holdini. However, then Erling Haaland revealed his final form to the world and finished us off. And so, Arsenal once again, yeah, I know, you're ready to hear it, blew it. In April as well, and I still haven't even done my Your Lie in April rewatch. This is going to be a tough end to the month. Not trying to be negative here, but I could see the signs that we were starting to break. Our depth was starting to be an issue in the later stages of the season, and those injuries that happened recently were only accelerating that downfall. I mean, when your third choice center back is Rob Holding, I mean, that's just not sustainable. And you know, in this video, there were a bunch of errors from Arsenal that led to goals. But it's not like those errors just kind of happened out of the blue in the middle of the season. They've been happening since the very beginning. It was really only until mid-season that they started to punish us. Especially after the World Cup, when noticeably our form kind of dipped. And while Arsenal's comebacks were incredible to watch, I feel like there was a little bit of an imbalance on how they were portrayed. Because sure, every comeback showed amazing grits, exceptional character. We showed time and time again that no matter what, we would continue to fight until the whistle. And that has been something that has defined this new era of Arsenal in the last 2 seasons. But I don't think I saw that much criticism towards our defense that had gotten significantly worse since the beginning of the year. In the first half of the season before the World Cup, Arsenal had one of the best defenses in the league. They were actually second right behind Newcastle. However, since the beginning of this year, we've had the 7th worst defense. You just can't win the league with that. And finally, going back to our squad depth, most of our players weren't injured, but they sure as hell were fatigued. I mean that both mentally and physically, because after 3 games blown, I don't care how strong you are, that will affect you. No one saw Arsenal being this strong of a title contender all the way up to this point of the season. Like I said, it's a sucky feeling. Especially since throughout the season, even the thought of Arsenal lifting the trophy got me a little emotional. Because that's something I've wanted to see all my life. I didn't get to see the Invincibles. I didn't get to see the Champions League final where we lost. I didn't get to see any of that. But let's not forget that we have secured Champions League football. I know that's 100% copium, but listen, I haven't seen Arsenal play in the Champions League since 2017. No longer do I even have to think or even look at a Europa League logo anymore. That's bliss in itself. And it doesn't even feel like a one-time deal. Arsenal are going in the right direction, and more money is only going to propel us farther. All credit goes to Mikel Arteta for that. No longer is the message trust the process. Now it's simply, if you don't get the vision now, you're a dumbass. Because if you, in the year of our Lord 2023, are not convinced that Arteta is the man for this job, then Jesus Christ, I don't know how you'll ever be happy. So far, there's not really been many exports, but that'll probably change the immediate moment this video comes out because that's just my luck. Austin Trusty, I believe, is on his way out to Sheffield United. Actually, I think that was confirmed just today. Last time I talked about him, I kind of slandered his name. I'm sorry about that. 2 years after being at the worst MLS club in the existence of time, he's now a starting Premier League defender, so congratulations to him. During his loan spell at Birmingham City last season, he was exceptional, averaging 2.3 tackles and 1.5 interceptions per 90. Folarin Balogun is another player that will probably be on his way out, and I don't really blame him. I don't know if he's going to get any kind of sufficient time if he were to stay at Arsenal, and he scored 21 goals for Vaughan last season. It's a bit of a shame, but that's just how it is.
What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Nicolas Pepe has also been linked to a move out, with recent interest being shown by Besiktas. Now, Nicolas Pepe slander has been done on this channel, maybe a little too much. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've used that one single clip. But take away his agent, who pulled off one of the greatest heists known to man, and I would say Pepe he's been aight. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, after a loan spell at Southampton, has been let go as a free agent. Honestly, I thought there would be enough to at least, I don't know, earn a permanent move to the Saints, but as a free agent, he'll probably get a move anyways. However, that didn't stop the Sun from throwing out their typical dog whistles. Pablo Maldini, kind of an old nickname, so I might have to give you some context there. It's Pablo Mari. I'm just making a joke to anyone who wasn't there before. Anyways, though, he was loaned out to Italian club Monza to help them stay up, and they did just that. He played a massive role in that, and his story is even more badass when you remember the man was stabbed during the season and came back. I don't know what it is with our club. Midfielder becomes scapegoat, redeems themselves, and then immediately dips. It happened with the player that eliminated the throat goat all those years back, and now Granit Xhaka. Xhaka's redemption story has been very heartwarming, but also a reminder that 50% of this fan base can go f themselves. And yes, I'm talking to the majority of Arsenal fan accounts on social media. Now, I had already been not too fond of Arsenal fan accounts on Twitter. Those are prime examples of what happens when you deprive yourself of the real world. Too scared to say a single sentence to your local cashier because you're too busy looking at Phil Foden's child's Instagram. Okay, let's get back on track. Granit Xhaka was pretty underwhelming during his early Arsenal days, and gradually fans started turning on him. And it was bound to happen because, for whatever reason, us Arsenal fans gave this man seriously unrealistic expectations. We were kind of desperate for that leadership figure because at the time we were, relying on the likes of Mathieu Flamini and Francois Coquelin, and I kind of blame Arsenal social media account as well for this, and also the Bundesliga YouTube channel for this, but they kind of gave you this image of Granit Xhaka as the next Patrick Vieira. Already, that's enough pressure for a little youngling like Granit Xhaka, but it's even worse when Arsene Wenger can't even figure out what role best suits you. And this all led to the atomic bomb, dropped by Unai Emery himself, practically. Granit Xhaka had already become public enemy number one, the scapegoat of Arsenal's issues, and he gave him captaincy. Man did not read the room at all and practically just turned Xhaka into one of those wheels you see at the donor shops. And what followed was no surprise whatsoever. It's almost like this was bound to happen. During a game in October of 2019 against Palace, Xhaka was subbed off and met with a choir of boos. And he responded by telling the crowd to f*** off. And I was 100% behind him that day. Before this day had come, Xhaka had not said a single bad thing about the club. Not one. The only crime he was committing was being underwhelming for the past few seasons, because he's never played in the right position. But on the opposite end, you had subhumans sending this man and his family death threats. Was Xhaka's way of responding to the boos maybe not the professional way to do it? Sure. But professionalism in this case. Rant aside though, Xhaka could have quit there, but he didn't want the D-Gens to win. And once Arteta came in, we slowly saw Xhaka improve. He became more proficient with his passing during the early Arteta days, and finally, after multiple adjustments and a position change, he had his best ever season in 2022-23. And it was only poetic that in Xhaka's last game for the club, he scored twice in the first 14 minutes. Now at 29, he's back to the Bundesliga to play for Leverkusen, and all I can really say is thank you, Granit. Now let's talk about our imports, and we're gonna start with one that is it's interesting. One of our first signings in the window was 24-year-old Kai Havertz, an attacking midfielder from Chelsea for 75 million. A lot of questions have been asked about this transfer because let's not really beat around the bush. Havertz was trash last season. Kai's best season for Chelsea came in 21-22 when he scored 8 goals in 1,809 minutes after he switched to a striker. Not bad numbers, but last season he could only replicate the same amount of goals per 90 stat with an extra 700 minutes played. Now, it's easy to write the guy off, especially with all the low-light compilations that have been created. But hear me out. We've been over Chelsea's volatile managerial changes in the past. It's almost as bad as the Saudi national team. If you look at the history since Havertz joined Chelsea, he's gone through 5 different managerial changes. And with that much change in such a short amount of time, no player is gonna thrive. Not one. And you saw that with not just Kai Havertz, but majority of Chelsea's players. They were terrible. But it was even worse for Kai, because he's been trying to figure out the position he's best suited for. And speaking of his position, the man doesn't even prefer striker. I know what you're thinking. It's odd. The man plays up front for not only Chelsea, but his national team. But in an interview back in 2020, he told Marca his ideal position was as a number 8 role. And this was despite him at the time when he was at Leverkusen scoring the most goals at a striking position. Listen, okay, the price is bad either way, right? We're paying $5 million less than what Chelsea paid for him initially. But I think there's a lot that Kai can still provide for Arsenal. He's kind of like Saul in the way both players are good at a lot of things but don't excel in one particular attribute. Kai won't be the main man everyone relies on at the top, and he'll have more freedom in where he prefers to play, so I truly think Arteta can get the best of him over time. And this is 100% cope. I've been a Kai Havertz defender since his Leverkusen days, but hey, at least I'm not as delusional as this guy.
Player that Kai Havertz is probably most comparable to, and not in terms of ability, but I've just worked it out.
Okay.
I was thinking more Kaka. Both quite tall and languid, but deceptively quite quick. I think Arteta thinks that Kaka is the mold of player that Havertz could become.
A big reason behind our bottle job was obviously our defense. It just didn't have any depth. But now we can breathe a little easier with the signing of 22-year-old Jurrien Timber from Ajax.
Hi there, it's me, 2025 Maqwell again. Just a quick disclaimer for this next part, I'm gonna be really insufferable about statistics. As you can tell, I don't do this anymore because it's really fucking annoying and really doesn't mean that much for my channel.
Timber has had praises sung about him by Dutch veterans like Daley Blind and even Virgil van Dijk. The right-footed center-back excels with the ball at his feet, which plays perfectly into Arteta's emphasis on build-up play. Timber for Ajax was averaging 74 passes completed per 90, top 1% amongst all defenders in the next 8 competitions. And these aren't just small, dinky passes. The man was averaging almost 9 progressive passes per 90. Again, top 1%. And if there's no one to pass to, Timber can widen his options by carrying the ball forward. He was in the top percentiles for carries, progressive carrying distance, and touches per 90. When it comes to defense, Timber only ever lost 0.21 challenges per 90, putting him in the top 9%. Arteta also sung the praises of Timber's versatility, and we saw that during the preseason match against Barcelona. A lot of fans have the impression that Jurrien Timber will just be kind of like a backup center back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he really emerged into one of our main center backs as the season goes by. Finally, our last addition so far, Declan Rice. After a bidding war between Man City and Arsenal, we acquired the defensive midfielder for $116.6 million. He only averaged 0.5 challenges lost per 90, putting him in the top 4% of all midfielders. The 24-year-old also averaged 9 ball recoveries per 90, placing him top 1%. He's also got almost flawless anticipation on when exactly to step in and disrupt the play. Interceptions are a strong suit for him as he averaged nearly 2 per 90, putting him in the top 5%. And despite being a defensive midfielder on paper, Declan loves to progress forward. He had a progressive carrying distance of 134.5 yards per 90, which just barely misses out on the top 10%. One thing Arsenal fans will also really love about the guy is his tendency to switch up play. He's in the top 1% for switches per 90. Midfield depth was also lacking, so the addition of Declan Rice as Granit Xhaka departs is massive. Whether we see Declan play as a sole anchor or in a double pivot, we'll just have to see. But either way, I am super excited to watch Declan Rice this year. To begin the season, Arsenal played Man City in the Community Shield, and after an insanely lucky last-minute equalizer, the Gunners prevailed on penalties to win their 17th Community Shield. Arsenal then started their league campaign with the match against Forest at home, and we get to see the debuts of Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and Jurrien Timber. 25 minutes played, Gabriel Martinelli dishes it with some pizzazz to Thierry Nketiah, who puts it into the net, 1-0. Then 6 minutes later, our star boy Bukayo Saka scores an absolute beauty, and things are starting out nicely for Arsenal. We just bought him, man. Come on. After the injury, things got quite shaky, but in the end, the Gunners started the season with 3 points. Arsenal then got another win the following week against Palace. However, again, the defense looked really shaky near the end.
Tonight, I am stressing to you, you take this outfit home, and you burn it.
And those struggles carried on against Fulham when a classic Arsenal mistake in the back cost them in just 57 seconds. However, the Gunners won another penalty in the second half, Saka converts, and then just 2 minutes later, Nketiah gives them the lead. But again, Arsenal's defense continued to be on fraud watch, and they dropped points for the first time in the season. Not only was the defense on fraud watch, however, so was Kai Havertz, who made a mistake that costed Arsenal vs Man United early on. Luckily for the Gunners, United don't know how to defend on transition, and Odegaard equalizes not even 2 minutes later. From there, the game turned into a back and forth classic, with both teams getting closer to scoring with every passing opportunity. Then, with 3 minutes remaining, Arsenal's high line gets exposed again, and the second most punchable face in the league silences the Emirates. Oh wait, never mind, VAR to the rescue. 5th minute to stoppage time now. Saka delivers from a corner, the ball sails over everyone and lands at Declan Rice, who hits it on the half volley into the net. Oh, Declan Rice, I'm gonna Declan go. Then 5 minutes later, with no time remaining, Arsenal go on the counter, substitute Jesus sends a disciple, and the Gunners win an absolute classic. In the following week, it was another sub in Leandro Trossard, who finally put an end to the Goodison-Sean Dyche black magic as the Gunners win 1-0. This was also David Raya's first league start. Next was the North London derby at the Emirates, and this one was pretty highly anticipated. And for good reason, because both teams at the time were still unbeaten with the same amount of points, and while Arsenal were still trying to find their rhythm, Spurs under new manager Ange Postecoglou were firing on all cylinders. And it wouldn't take long for the new look Spurs to score for the opposing team. For the rest of the first half, it was all Arsenal, but they could never find a second. Then, after letting off the gas near halftime, Arsenal concede. Luckily, Arsenal win another penalty. Saka goes down the middle, and the Gunners retake the lead. But not even 90 seconds later, Jorginho freezes up, gives away the ball, and once again, Arsenal concede off a mistake in the back. A week after that disappointing result, the Gunners beat up on Bournemouth away from home and won 4-0. And after struggling since joining, Kai Havertz scored his first goal for Arsenal against the Cherries. It was only a penalty, but it was one that Bukayo gave to Havertz, showing that through thick and thin, this team had Havertz's back. And that must have boosted the Germans' morale, because in a relatively dull home game for City, Havertz assisted Gabriel Martinelli's stroke of luck that gave manager Mikel Arteta his first Premier League win against Pep Guardiola. With that result, Arsenal were second after 8 games, with only them and Spurs still unbeaten. However, another rival in Chelsea were keen on changing that, and in 47 minutes, Arsenal found themselves 2-0 down. Nevertheless, Declan Rice from way downtown gives the Gunners a lifeline in the 75th minute. Then, less than 10 minutes later, Leandro Trossard equalizes to save Arsenal a point at Stamford Bridge. This did see Arsenal drop to 3rd though. However, they bounced back to 2nd the following week after finishing off the month of October with a mangling of Sheffield United. And still, the only 2 teams unbeaten in the league so far, Spurs and Arsenal. But not for long, as a David Raya error cost Arsenal against Newcastle in the 63rd minute. The Gunners couldn't recover this time and lost for the first time in the season. Now sitting 4th, Arsenal did well to bounce back in the following week against Burnley at home. 2 weeks later, Arsenal got the winner at the death against Brentford thanks to Kai Havertz. The Gunners then picked up their 3rd win thanks to 2 early goals versus Wolves. And then, after falling 3-2 down with 30 minutes to play in Luton, Arsenal came back to win 4-3 thanks to another late Declan Rice goal off a set piece. I was actually in Asia throughout late October to the beginning of December, so I didn't see any of these games. Well, okay, except for like the last 10 minutes of Arsenal vs Brentford, but aside from that, nothing else. That said, I returned home feeling good, knowing that my Arsenal were top of the league. But it's like the immediate moment I got back home and started watching the games in full again, it's like everything went to shit. Arsenal played a red-hot Aston Villa and were absolutely dominated in a 1-0 loss. The Gunners then beat Brighton 2-0 the following week, but by no means was that very convincing, with Arsenal's attack struggling. Despite this though, Arsenal were still first, with their next opponents being 2nd place Liverpool. Now before this game happened, I watched a video that pretty much ruined my day. And now, I'm going to show it to you in its entirety, because I hate you all.
Jurgen, why did you ask for Liverpool fans to actually show up for once, rather than just sing the walk alone then leave?
Because Arsenal is bigger than us and I'm scared. We say we're a massive team, but 1 league title in 40 years is a bit pathetic, let's be real.
Have you got any excuses for when you get battered in your Arsenal?
Yes, of course. The ground is slightly damp, which can affect our players. Also, Arsenal does have God's child, Saka, which is unfair.
Just 3 minutes in, Arsenal off yet another set-piece score. However, in the 28th minute, Zinchenko isn't able to contain Salah, and the Gunners concede. However, later in the 40th minute, Saka gets in behind the defense, the keeper manages to deal with it, but then the ball falls to Martinelli. Then in the 53rd minute, Joe Gomez of all people has a go, and it's not too far off. 20 minutes later, a corner for the Gunners, but they make a complete mess of it. Now it's a break for Liverpool, and Declan Rice finds himself in a whole-ass 5v1. Salah then proceeds to slide it to Alexander-Arnold, and somehow Arsenal don't concede. In the end, the game ends 1-1, and Arsenal hold on to their 1-point lead in the league somehow. But not for long, as in a matter of 3 days, Arsenal experience a New Year's Eve nightmare. First, against West Ham, the Gunners make another mistake in the back, and that cost them. Then, in the 55th minute, former Arsenal defender Konstantinos Mavropanos makes it 2. In their next game against Fulham, after going up 1-0 in just 5 minutes, Arsenal then concede 2 unanswered and lose a second straight game. And with those results, the Gunners dropped all the way down to home sweet home itself, 4th place. And that's how they'd finish 2023. Now, before we talk about the second half of the season, let's briefly talk about the Champions League. I know, crazy. Finally, we get to talk about the Champions League on a fucking Arsenal video. Arsenal were drawn into a group consisting of PSV, Lens, and Sevilla, so basically the Europa League Embassy group. This was also Arsenal's first time in the Champions League since 2017. I won't make any comments after that. Back then, they were a team on a slow decline with the manager well past his prime. But now, with plenty of young talent managed by an up-and-coming manager, they were ready to take on Europe's finest again. Arsenal began their campaign in winning fashion with a 4-0 pummeling of PSV at home. But then, they were stunned by Lens after initially being 1-0 up. Nevertheless, Arsenal won its next 3 matches, including a return fixture at home versus Lens, where the Gunners got some needed revenge. Finally, after a 1-1 draw with PSV, Arsenal won their group to advance to the knockouts. Now back to the present. We may have reached a new year, but Arsenal were still up to the same old. The Gunners back in November had lost in the 4th round of the EFL Cup, a cup you'd have to pay me $1 billion to ever give a shit about. And to begin January, their cup hopes completely died after a 2-0 loss to Liverpool in the 3rd round. Nonetheless, Arsenal returned to Premier League action in style with a 5-0 win versus Crystal Palace. Next was Forest away, and the Gunners didn't let last season repeat itself. And all the while this was going on, Nuno Tavares was, oh, well, you know, good thing at least this is the only weird thing that has happened with an Arsenal player before. With those results, though, Arsenal were now 3rd, with their next opponents being the league leaders Liverpool at the Emirates. Thankfully, this time, no random e-girl ruined my day. Even better, Moses Odegaard would part the seas, and while Havertz couldn't convert, Saka was there to sweep up the crumbs. 1-0 after just 13 minutes. And from there, Arsenal's defense did well to contain Liverpool's attack, but then in classic Gunnar fashion, they have another error lead to a goal. We were dominating them. Why do we keep doing this?
Gabriel. Van Dijk in the end, shielding it, and Martinelli is presented with it!
All is forgiven, guys. False alarm. Despite the early error, Arsenal's defense had appeared to be off fraud watch as they held Liverpool to just a single shot on target throughout the whole game. Then, just to cap off a great performance, Leandro Trossard infiltrates the box and slips it between the keeper's legs. I've now written this match, by the way, in 3 different perspectives, so all I'm gonna say is I hope this is the end of it. But 3-1 to the Arsenal, a fantastic result to get a foot back into the title race. But the Gunners were just getting started because after so many months of questions, they finally found their rhythm. And for the next 4 weeks, Arsenal destroyed, dismantled, and even disemboweled every team unfortunate to cross paths with them. It all started when they beat the everlasting shit out of West Ham to make them forever regret their crimes in December. Then Arsenal put 5 past Burnley the following week. Newcastle was up next, and the Gunners turned the Magpies into mash. And then lastly in Sheffield, Arsenal scored 5 in the first half. But despite all the carnage left in their wake, the Gunners were still 2 points below the league leaders in 3rd. However, just 1 week later, Kai Havertz comes back to haunt Brentford with another late winner, and thanks to the top 2 of Man City and Liverpool drawing with each other, Arsenal jumped back to 1st thanks to their superior goal difference. The Champions League also returned around this time as well, and I guess things are just new nowadays because Arsenal actually got lucky in the last 16 draws. Porto! And with how the Gunners had outscored their opponents 21-2 in the league, many saw Arsenal running away with this. Hell, hashtag pray for Porto was trending on Twitter for a bit. But a lot of Arsenal and Premier League fans seem to forget about these things. 1, experience is key, and not a single player on this Arsenal team had any of it. And B, the Premier League is easily one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Honestly, I'd say it is the most competitive league. But that said, the clubs are severely overrated. But in this case, it was experience that was Arsenal's Achilles heel, and after not being able to get the attack going at all, the Gunners conceded right at the death. Nevertheless, Arsenal returned home in the second leg and looked a lot better. Leandro Trossard scored to make it 1-1 in aggregate, and then thanks to some David Raya heroics, Arsenal prevailed on penalties. Meaning for the first time since 2010, Arsenal were in the Champions League quarterfinals. 2 weeks later came the biggest game of Arsenal's season. Man City away. Last time Arsenal played at the Etihad, they witnessed the dying remains of their title hopes be stomped upon by an unstoppable Norse god. However, the Gunners were back, and better than ever. I know that's a very cliche thing to say, but they actually were. Their form wasn't dwindling this time, and everyone was actually healthy. Things would be different this time. This was the worst game I have ever watched in my entire existence, and that's saying a lot. Because I watched a game 30 minutes away from Rimini in March. Anyways, no one benefited from this game, besides Liverpool, who overtook Arsenal for the top spot right at the end of March. But it's fine, there's still plenty of games to go. This title race is nowhere near done. Arsenal went on to extend their unbeaten run to 11 after wins against Luton and Brighton. And thanks to Liverpool letting it slip versus Man United, the Gunners were back at the top of the table due to goal difference. But now it was time for the Champions League quarterfinals, where Arsenal would be playing... Many years ago, Arsenal had their pants pulled down, were given a swirly, and shoved into a locker by Bayern Munich. In just 2 matches, the Gunners coughed up 10 goals while the whole world watched and laughed at how truly pathetic this once great club had become. This was also Arsenal's last appearance in the Champions League for 7 years. 7 long years full of decline and dread, but eventually hope and rebirth. Now, with Bayern running into a wall Arsenal knew all too well, this was the chance for vengeance. 11 minutes played, Sauce Boy Saka infiltrates the Bayern defense and curls it into the back of the net. 1-0 to the Arsenal. However, a lack of experience once more causes the young Arsenal team to lose their composure, and former gunner Serge Gnabry scores. Then, in the 31st minute, Arsenal's own kryptonite Harry Kane comes back to bite them in a different shirt. Nevertheless, Arsenal used the power of friendship to equalize in the 75th minute. And then, with just 30 seconds remaining, Saka gets in behind the defense and has just Neuer to beat.
Saka! What's the penalty? What the f*** do you mean, referee?
That was a bit of a tough pill to swallow, knowing that was a pretty big missed opportunity. But now Arsenal needed to focus on their next league game versus Aston Villa. Unlike last time, Villa had cooled down a little, and Arsenal were still unbeaten in the league in 2024. So all the Gunners needed to do was maintain this form and not bottle it.
Digne, and there was Torres. Here's Bailey.
Oh, not again.
Defender Smith Rose, the last defender back, and Watkins chips it into the far corner.
Why is it always April? 3 days after that disaster class, Arsenal went back to Munich, and before the game, for some reason, Arsenal fans were a lot more delusional than I thought they would originally be. Case in point, this tweet. What does this even mean? What does aura mean at this point anymore? Oh, Arsenal, you are such a great club. You have so much aura. Oh, I'm auraing all over the place. Oh! Anyways, Arsenal failed to do anything in this match, again, and lost. So, no more dreams of Champions League anymore this year, but even worse, because of that loss to Aston Villa, Arsenal were back in second with their title ambitions laying solely upon the hopes of Man City dropping points. A team which was on a 17-game unbeaten run.
Listen, okay, Manchester City, I have an offer that you simply can't refuse. Please.
However, amidst the darkness, there was one shining light. Anne Hathaway. A couple days after Arsenal got back to winning ways against Wolves, a clip came out of Anne Hathaway celebrating Leandro Trossard's goal in the 45th minute.
1-0. Sorry. Trossard.
Oh, I love you!
All I'm gonna say is Trossard was a different man after this. Against Chelsea, it took not even 5 minutes for Leandro Trossard to get on the score sheet. Then later in the 51st minute, Ben White makes it 2-0. And remember when I said Kai Havertz was on fraud watch? Well, not anymore, motherfuckers. Agent who? Accept the facts, Chelsea fans. You are nothing to us anymore. Bow before the feet of your new London overlords. And Arsenal fans relish in this glorious moment, because the scars of Stamford Bridge 2014 are no more. 5-0. I don't care if City is still in the driver's seat. We are winning that title. Next up, the North London derby in Tottenham. Give me a wash Dane, a dab of sauce, and finally a little meat and schlappen. And just like that, it's 3-0 after just 38 minutes. Oh, what's that? Tottenham dominated the whole match and nearly came back against us? The officiating was terrible as well? I don't give a shit. I'm the most shameless human being on the face of the earth now. Unfortunately, though, for our glorious Gunners, Man City still had the advantage after winning in Nottingham. However, 2 can play at this game as Arsenal take care of business against Bournemouth. Have that, Manchester City. Next, Manchester United at the famous Niagara Trafford, and a single goal from the changed man himself seals the deal. How about that, man? Oh my god, it's just not fair! Alright, calm down. Calm down, okay? City still has 2 games remaining, okay? Who do they play next, alright? Surely it's gotta be someone who could trump them. Founded in 1882, Tottenham Hotspur has graced our eyes as one of the greatest clubs in European football. Throughout numerous successful decades, the world has got to witness legends like Danny Blanchflower, Jimmy Greaves, Steve Perryman, David Ginola, and even Ledley King. These great men have helped win glorious Tottenham numerous FA Cups, UEFA Cups, and even league titles. Incredible Tottenham Hotspur has also produced a ton of great players of this era: Luka Modric, Gareth Bale, Christian Eriksen, and Son Heung-min. And sure, they haven't won a trophy since 2008. Every player but one I just mentioned is not at the club anymore. But you can never underestimate the Great Hotspur. Especially now with Lord Postecoglou guiding a team of talented young studs bound for great success, the Great Hotspur shall prevail versus the Demon Lords. Come on, you Spurs! 5 minutes played, our future champions of England already at it as Bentancur has a shot but it's saved. 10 minutes later, the threat approaches. They possess an old Nordic man, but thankfully Duke Vicarius protects us from danger. Closing in to half-time now, the slimy Manx once more try to penetrate the impenetrable. I owe my life to you, Dragusin. So foolish these silly little plastic toys can be, thinking they can actually break us down. But do not forget, the Great Hotspur thrives on struggle. And later in the 70th minute, our superior Swede Kulusevski has a go, but to no avail. However, he comes back stronger 9 minutes later. Unlucky he must be. Speaking of unlucky, not this pathetic excuse of a defender for sure. Go on, sonny boy, send these demons back! Need not worry, there is still time, my glorious kings. Just don't let these goblins score again.
And Doku goes down, and that is a penalty kick. Erling Haaland.
I f***ing hate this club with every single ounce of my living. It's like every year with these bleach demons. They terrorize my teen years and do nothing with it. They terrorize my adult years by doing nothing. This club is more useless than Ben Simmons in a basketball game. Woohoo! We prevented Arsenal from doing something again. Congratulations on your trophy. Go on, dance with your friends. Drink like it's the best day of your lives. I hope you're happy sitting in the cuck chair every year, you pathetic wits. I hope the day this club comes close to ever winning another trophy again, the whole team suffers stomach aches and the fans are forced to watch their lives drain from their eyes as their club gets manhandled again. I cannot wait for the day I rot on my deathbed knowing your tiny club still hasn't won anything. I cannot wait to see each and every single one of you in hell.
Okay. Not all is lost yet. There is still one more game remaining, and City are just 2 points above us. It's still possible. What's their next opponent's recent form looking like? Yeah, that's, yeah, okay. But you know what? I still believe. 99% faith, 1% chance, and 115 charges. I still believe, damn it.
Foden, chance for a shot!
It's not even been 90 seconds!
Foden!
How could this happen to me? I made a mistake, got nowhere to run. Life goes on as I faded away. I'm sick of this life, I just wanna scream. How could this happen to me?
Well, it's happened again. After 40 plus games, Arsenal failed to win a single trophy. Again. Oh, but Maxwell, what about the Community Shield? Yeah, I could take a shit on that and it would still have the same value. You know, you're just waiting to hear it. We need a finisher. Badly. I mean, sure, you know, this team did have the most goals in the league of any other team, But, we have to take into consideration that a lot of those goals came from blowouts. 11 of those goals came from Sheffield United. If you look at the way Arsenal attacks, especially when they're struggling, especially in the Champions League, especially in the knockouts of the Champions League, you saw that teams could just shut down the wings because there wasn't really anyone reliable in the center. Sure, there's Kai Havertz, but I wouldn't consider him an elite finisher at all. To really sum it up, right, if we want to be in the same position, or even better, perhaps, we need a new striker. We need perhaps another midfielder. We also need so much more depth. If we're trying to do anything in the Champions League or even the Cups, we need more depth. Seeing how we missed out twice on the league now, it was essential that we get things right in the summer window. So out came a load of players who had been around since the early beginnings of Mikel Arteta. Mohamed El-Neni on a free, Fabio Vieira, Reece Nelson went out on loan. Aaron Ramsdale left to newly promoted Southampton for 21.4 million. Thierry Nketiah just wasn't cut out to be Arsenal's top dog, and so he was shipped off to Palace for 29.7 million. And finally, we said goodbye to one half of the Haaland boys for 31.8 million. Then came the new shiny signing. David Raya's deal was made permanent for 31.9 million. We then bought a new left back in Ricardo Calafiori for 45 million. Mikel Merino took a few weeks to happen, and that costed us another 32 million. But hey, we let so many attacking options leave, and it's 4 days until the window ends. Are we gonna do something about that perhaps? Maybe a new striker since we so badly need one? Oh. Arsenal started swimmingly with a win versus Wolves as we saw goals from Kai Havertz and the Starboy. Oh, and also there was this that happened. The Gunners then had to face their demons and play Aston Villa away. It was an entertaining back-to-back affair, but in the end, it would be substitute Leandro Trossard scoring with just his first touch of the game. And with that bit of redemption, the football gods gifted Arsenal with 3 injuries in training. Tomiyasu, Jesus, and Mikel Merino, who we had just signed 3 days before. However, that did not stop the Gooner fleet, as Kai Havertz lobbed one beautifully over the keeper to give Arsenal the advantage against Brighton. But then come the second half, Declan Rice does some dumb shit to get himself a red card, and then Arsenal allow a single pass to go through their whole shape. The first shot is saved, but unfortunately the rebound is slapped in. Thomas Partey, let your apologies be as loud as your disrespect. To be in September, the Arsenal traveled to Tottenham to do some parenting, and then followed that up with an extremely dull performance versus Atalanta, which had a lot to do with the fact that Martin Odegaard was out with an ankle injury he suffered during the international break. And then came City at the Etihad. Haaland scores early, 1-0 City. Rodri's crockpot of an ACL finally says it's time, Arsenal immediately equalize through a Calafiori ripper, and then take the lead before the half on, you guessed it, a corner. Leandro Trossard then sees a controversial red in the second half. Arteta decides to play aggressively defensive again, as if he didn't learn his lesson last time. This invites pressure from City. They eventually find the equalizer. The game ends 2-2. Stay humble, eh? Ben White was playing with an injury, yada yada yada. Fuck this game. Nonetheless, Arsenal went on to collect 6 straight victories throughout the Premier League, EFL Cup, and Champions League. But then just 26 minutes into a match versus Bournemouth, William Saliba receives a red card, which, I see both sides on this one, but I don't really think it was that clear of a goal-scoring opportunity. Anyways, this fucks up the entire game plan. Odegaard still being out doesn't help at all, and we lose 2-0. And oh goody, we have Liverpool next, and our best defender is suspended. Yippee! But what we mustn't forget is that with our star boy, anything is possible. Oh, Liverpool want to play the set-piece game? You fools. We're doing this all without Saliba and Odegaard, by the way. This is so our year. Oh. 3 days later, Arsenal put the North End on the Panini press. Yeah, that wasn't very good. But again, the lack of Odegaard's creativity hurts the team against Newcastle, as the team can only conjure up a single shot on target in 90 minutes. The Gunners then follow that abysmal performance with another against Milan.
Okay, hello, it's me again. I meant to say Inter. I do this thing where sometimes I just don't say a word. It happens in some videos. Sometimes, I don't really care. And then sometimes it's shit like this where it'll piss off the entirety of the Milani's population. So, sorry. And this one was really annoying because all Arsenal did was play the long ball game hoping to win the second balls. against a team that was significantly taller than them. Thankfully, Odegaard was back just in time for a trip to Stamford Bridge, and good fucking lord did we need him. It took just an hour to make his mark on the game as Martinelli tucked in one of the Norwegians' assists. However, just 9 minutes later, no one bothers to even follow Pedro Neto, and all of Odegaard's good work has been undone. But then, in the 86th minute, Arsenal with a good chance here, the first shot is saved, but it falls right to Trossard. 5th minute of stoppage time now. Arsenal know they need this winner to stay firm in the title race. And here's Leandro Trossard. I already kind of mentioned the theory of whenever I go to Asia, Arsenal just kind of start winning, but I had been in Asia for about 3 weeks at that point, and all I had seen was disappointment and Ben White getting injured again. Fortunately, the Maqwell in Asia effect finally arrived, and Arsenal got some very convincing victories, including a 3-0 vs Forest, who were sitting in the top 5, and a 5-1 destruction of Sporting. We also saw Ethan Nwaneri get his first Premier League goal at just 17 years old. Calafiori was back in the starting lineup too, for 3 games. And with Gabriel also out, that meant Jakub Kivior would start versus Fulham, and it took just 10 minutes for someone to run in behind him and score. Thankfully for the Arsenal, the glorious corner came to the rescue again, with the other starting center back being on the end of it. However, throughout this game, the team's attack was so hard to watch. No free-flowing football, but it's not like this has been anything new up to this point. It's just that this one really exposed the issues, as Arsenal would fail to miserably find any equalizer. They did bounce back against Monaco, but that scoreline does not show the whole picture because, again, the attack was miserable to watch. And it only got worse just a few days later when Arsenal couldn't even score a goal versus Everton. Thankfully, after that god-awful performance, we were single-handedly rejuvenated by Jesus in the EFL Cup quarters. Because then in the next game, against Palace, Arsenal smashed through the glass house, scoring 5 goals. It was a match of actual dynamic football. Chaos. Players had freedom. Finally, it seemed like Arteta was getting it. No.
You've got mail.
No. Good fucking job, Arsenal. This guy was in desperate need of someone who was actually reliable as a backup, and you gave him Raheem Sterling. And so, what now? Well, after a moment of promise, we get fed yet another unconvincing win. That's followed up by a 3-1 win versus Brentford, but the result could have been much different had it not been for David Raya's ridiculous save. Then there was Brighton away, and I know a lot of people are pissed off about that one dumbass penalty, and I am too. But it's not like this came out of nowhere. Arsenal took the lead, had control for a bit, then Brighton turned the game into a transitional one. The Gunners never made any attempt to contain it, and they got punished. Then there was Newcastle in the EFL Cup semis. And that was just abysmal. The finishing was awful, the chance creating was especially bad, and Newcastle were making more of their chances with 30% of the possession. And finally, there was the most recent FA Cup game versus Man United. This performance pretty much encapsulated everything that I had been worried about with this team from the very beginning of the season. The attack. Oh my god, it was less effective than essential oils against the polio virus. And the times we did manage to create anything, Kai Havertz would just fuck every single one of them. By the way, we played this game with a man advantage for 70 fucking minutes. 70! And even with the ref helping us pretty much the entire fucking match, still, we couldn't score a goal. We couldn't score another goal. We couldn't beat them. We couldn't beat Manchester fucking United. And David Raya, man, I had finally changed my opinion about you because you've been very good this season. And then you just whip out the ping of a North American player on a Garena server.
We kicked a lot of the balls over the bar, and it's tricky that this ball flies a lot, and we discussed that as well.
So here we are now. Out of every domestic cup competition, again, the Premier League title is miles away, and we ignored every single sign. And now our best player, the one player that actually made me enjoy watching this team throughout the last 6 months, is in the hospital for God knows how long now. Kill me now! By the way, speaking of injuries, thank God we had some depth for that defense, because we've really needed it. Halfway through the season, we have played 9 different backlines. 9. Moving on, our next game was against Spurs at home, and the moment I saw BBL Sterling, I knew we were about to do everything in our power to hand Tottenham a win. Thankfully, Tottenham Hotspur's defense was abysmal, and Leandro Trossard, the only guy providing any threat, scored the winner and also took someone's soul for good measure. Trossard continues to put this entire attack on his back, and he provides 2 assists for the Gunners versus Aston Villa. However, it just simply can't be that easy with this team. 60th minute, Mikel Merino fails to pick up Yori Tielemans' run, and then 7 minutes later, but if the 2023-24 season taught us anything, you can't count these guys out. And off one of the meanest deflections of the season, Arsenal find the winner late on. Unfortunately, the ball hit Havertz's arm. Now on the replays, this was very obvious. So, no complaints, right? Unfortunately, we all underestimate how truly brain-dead some of Arsenal Twitter is. Someone tweeted after the game that it actually hit Havertz's stomach instead of his arm, which, you know, understandable, maybe he saw the wrong angle. And then you see below that caption a video clip of a replay of the best angle of that handball. Tough result all around, even had someone ranting to the steward, a vast contrast to that one clip that makes me feel very lonely every time I see it. However, a few days later, Arsenal bounced back with a 3-0 win versus Zagreb in the Champions League. The Gunners then beat Wolves in a less than convincing performance where they were bailed out by the Italian Aura man. He transcends the lines and he transcends sexuality. Arsenal made it 3 straight wins with the victory in their last Champions League group game versus Girona. And then came the day of vindication. Arsenal versus Manchester City. It was like watching art from a painting come to life. The colors in my vision were vibrant, as if I had just found the love of my life. Every weight of worry faded from my shoulders. This was a moment in time to remember just how beautiful life really can be. And then reality hit 3 days later.
Oh, Gordon into Isak. Oh, and he's hit the post as well, and Murphy scores from the... David Raya for Rice. Surely, yes!
Yeah, I still want to end it all right, out of every cup competition again. But hey, at least we can now focus on the league more. Listen, I'm aware of all the criticism that I've given Martinelli this season, but him being out now means our attack only has Sterling, Nwaneri, Trossard, and Howard. What the fuck? We don't have a striker anymore. For the whole season. All we have left is 3 wingers. That's it. That's it. He injured his hamstring by blocking a shot. Does God hate us or something? Again, just like Martinelli, I have complained a lot about Havertz, but at least he was there. Who do we have now? The fucking air molecules? Going into Arsenal's next match versus Leicester, our front 3 consisted of Sterling and Nwaneri out wide, and Trossard playing up top. God help us all. Against a relegation candidate, we could not create anything. I mean, it's just hopeless. Until Mikel Arteta did the unthinkable. With his back against the wall more than ever, he decided to experiment and put 6'2" Mikel Merino up top. Wait, isn't that Oyarzabal? And in the last 10 minutes, the flowers of Arteta's fruitful thinking pay off as the Spaniard saves us from embarrassment with a brace. You know what? Maybe this guy is the temporary solution. I mean, what the hell do we have to lose, right? Sanity. That's what. If you thought the performance versus Leicester was bad, this one against West Ham would make you reconsider switching to another sport. This team's unfortunate nickname is the Gooners, and yet all I'm witnessing here is the most painful edging session ever. Watching this team is like watching some AI movie trailer made by some dipshit tech bro who thinks this is the next big thing. And all you experience is the feeling of dread because quicker and quicker we're witnessing this slop take over and the death of a human connection. Oh yeah, we lost 1-0 by the way. Then today, as of this recording, we played Forest. I mean, what do I even say at this point, man? Arsenal used to be a joy to watch. Now it feels like I'm being threatened when I see the notification that they're playing. Nottingham Forest could have literally just taken the day off, and we still wouldn't have found a way to find the back of the net. Now that Saka's gone, Ødegaard is the only guy that's like our main creator, and he's playing like his FIFA 15 card right now. And then all these injuries on top, I mean, it's just hopeless, man. Now 13 points away from Liverpool, the idea of winning the title was reduced to a pipe dream. Kind of like planning to fly 6 hours to see that special summer. Alright, I'll stop. Morale, though, could not be farther in the gutter for the Gunners, but like a true Gooners, they still had a bunch of beatings waiting whether they liked it or not. So next, Arsenal visited Eindhoven to play PSV in the Champions League last 16. The Gunners were favorites, but I mean, come on, man, have you you not seen the shit I've had to deal with? 17 minutes played, Arsenal opened the scoring. Don't worry, they'll find a way to fuck this up. Just you wait. 3 minutes later though, Nwaneri blasts home the second. Yippee! Might as well have a little bit of excitement before this inevitably falls apart. A little bit later, Maqwell Marino gets on the score sheet. 3-0 to the Arsenal after just half an hour. Now hold on a minute. Oh, I told you so. PSV are awarded a penalty and they convert. See, I knew this was gonna happen. Holy shit. Subverting all of our expectations, Arsenal, despite having no Saka, no Martinelli, and Maqwell Marino up top, put 7 past PSV. You know what? I think there's still a chance. I mean, all we gotta do is win out the remainder of our games, and if we're beating Champions League opponents by 6 goals, I mean, this is still very much possible. We can do this!
Well, Bruno Fernandes!
Oh, what's that? Oh, no. I didn't say anything. You must have gone crazy or something. I've just been busy transmutating into this little guy here, you see? Meow. Listen, man, alright? I don't care if we have multiple injuries, that we have no one up top, or even if Russia was to, you know, nuke the Emirates during the game, alright? We should not be losing to Manchester United, who going into this game were 15th. Eventually in the second half, Arsenal found an equalizer, but I don't give two shits, man. Had it not been for David Raya, we would have been easily embarrassed, and Maqwell better be fucking grateful, because losing to this United side is a stain you would never be able to get out. Then again, now thinking of it, there's already way worse. I'm just saying, can you really be painting yourself as the community club when you're firing someone who is against, I don't know, killing innocents? It doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really connect. Also, fuck this dude from AFTV who tried to get someone to take off a Palestine pin. And also fuck this guy, because I gotta side with this guy who also I fucking hate. Tough result, but a few days later, Arsenal cruised through the second leg versus PSV and beat them 9-3 on aggregate. The Gunners then carried that momentum into the following week and got their first league victory in over a month after beating Chelsea. Going back to the Champions League though, the quarterfinal draws were done, and Arsenal would be playing Real Madrid. Well, it was fun while it lasted, boys.
From the shadows, a mysterious star illuminates its surroundings. Its light eradicates every corner of darkness. A source of energy stronger than the sun emits rays of life that vaporize the lingering dread and doubt below.
By the gods, just as we were about to weep once more, he has risen. After just 7 minutes into being subbed on, Bukayo Saka scores on his return. You simply can no longer doubt his title as God's child. It's gotta be that fucking Charmin Okayama, man. What the fuck have I done? Season-ending injury to our best center back. Before Real Madrid. I mean, yeah, listen, they haven't been at their best, and they also just lost to Valencia. But look at us. We have Jakub Kivior starting at center back. Look at who we have up top. Oh my god, why me? Why me? The game starts as everyone expected, with Real looking the bigger threat going forward. Then in the 30th minute, Arsenal's backline gets exposed with a single through ball, but luckily they're up against the jogging merchants. And then all of a sudden, Arteta's men start coming to life. Slowly but surely, the Gunner philosophy is developing a rhythm. Oh man, don't give me hope like this. Early into the second half though, Arsenal's backline once again gets sliced up with a few passes, but thankfully for them, on the end of this sequence is FIFA 15 Matis Boli. I told you though, I knew to be careful. You can't trick me anymore. There's too much trauma for that. 57 minutes played though, Arsenal with the free kick from way out. Oh wait, it looks like Declan's gonna go for it. What a waste, Matt. What the fuck just happened? 10 minutes later, Arsenal win another free kick outside the box, and there's no way he actually does it again. Oh my god. Declan Rice before this game had never scored a free kick in his career, and now all of a sudden, 70 minutes into the first leg of Arsenal vs Real Madrid, he's got 2 more than Kylian Mbappe. But it doesn't stop there for the Arsenal. Just 4 minutes later, Maqwell Marino with a moment of genius tees that shit up. I cannot believe my eyes. Arsenal scored 3 goals versus Real Madrid. Arsenal is 3-0 up versus Real Madrid. To the shock of literally everyone on the planet, beyond the stars, outside the realms we have yet to discover, Arsenal beat the reigning champions of Europe 3-0. And hey, a massive credit to the Arsenal defense because they looked incredible. Saliba and Timber locked down the quote-unquote Brazilians. And Jakub Kivior? I'ma let Thanos take this one for me. Again, no one saw this coming. Not even the Global Gooners.
We are pleased to announce that Global Gooners is back. Please may our Global Gooner make their way to the gate.
But we couldn't get ahead of ourselves. There was still a second leg. And no one made that more known than Real fucking Madrid. During the build-up for the second leg, Arsenal had to be subjected to a wave of Real Madrid fans and the majority of the media screaming, "Remontada! We're gonna do the remontada! Remember PSG? Remontada! Remember Chelsea? Remontada! Remember Man City? Remontada!" If that wasn't already annoying, Real Madrid also got access to, I guess, close their stadium roof to improve the atmosphere. Wait, what atmosphere? And then, just hours before the game, everyone had to be subjected to this phrase. 90 minutes at the Bernabeu is a very long time. The official Real Madrid social media even posted a video of them asking ChatGPT to say the phrase in multiple different languages. Is the admin stupid or something? Google Translate exists for a reason, you fucking moron. And after all of this chirping, we beat them 2-1 in their own home. I mean, Martinelli even scored in this game. But don't worry, lads, the remontada isn't over just yet. There's still the third leg, a la Madrid. Anyways, with a 5-1 win on aggregate, Arsenal was back in the Champions League semi-finals for the first time since 2009. Back then, Cristiano Ronaldo had just done this shit in front of our fans, and United would go on to win 4-1 on aggregate. A sign of inevitable decline, with Wenger over the next few years having to make the most out of the £3.50 we gave him every year. However, 16 years later, after all the false hope and trauma, Arsenal was back on the rise, and even though this season's thrown so many curveballs at them, Arteta's men have prevailed each and every single time. This just feels like our time. Our time to win the Champions League. Who's our next opponents? PSG? They might be much better than the last time we met, but so are we. Bring them to us.
Early test here for Timber, hit by Dembele!
Well, this couldn't have started worse. Arsenal quickly realized what monster they were up against as they nearly conceded a second goal on not one, not two, but 3 different opportunities as my heart was pounding through my chest thanks to a mixture of nervousness and Adderall. Thankfully, no heart attack well nicknames today though, as Arsenal finally start finding a rhythm late into the first half. Then in the 38th minute, Saka gets past a couple defenders, crosses it in the middle to Martinelli, but it just misses him. This is better though, boys, keep it going. 44th minute, prime Yaya Toure Louis Skelly splits the defense with a brilliant ball, and now it's just Martinelli versus the keeper. Sell him. Fucking sell him. I can't fucking do this shit anymore. Early into the second half, set piece for the Gunners. The world's most dangerous words to say outside, "I have a bomb at the airport," and color commentator Taylor Twelman. Declan Arrozinho delivers it picture perfect to Mikel Merino, and Arsenal equal. Oh my. Nonetheless, Arsenal keep advancing on a rampage. It's Declan with another wonder ball, this time to Trossard, and his shot is saved by Donnarumma. It is only a matter of time. However, Arsenal can't get too carried away. They get very lucky Bradley Barcola can't finish for shit after having their defense be put in a waffle maker, and then once more unfortunate not even 2 minutes later. And that was that. I know it's a very sudden ending, but honestly, that couldn't have summed up the performance from the attack because they just fizzled out and died after an hour. Outside of Declan Rice, I'll be honest with you, it looked like everyone else was actually under contract with Stoke City. It was that bad. Oh yeah, going back to our favorite club that has such a massive emphasis on community, Ashtonbury Army, an Arsenal Ultras group, raised over 12,000 euros to display a tifo at the beginning of the match, and these were the ideas they proposed to the club. Some pretty cool designs, and Arsenal went with this FIFA career mode as tifo.
What the hell is that supposed to be?
So the initial claim from the Ultras group is that Arsenal rejected their proposal. Arsenal later refuted that by simply saying that there just wasn't enough time to organize the tifo and put it up and everything. Even if that was the case, you had a couple of weeks to figure all of this out. You could have commissioned an artist or something along the lines of that. But no, you didn't bother to do anything. The worst part, Arsenal, is that you had the idea of putting up a tifo in the first place. This is the best you can do? Even without like commissions and everything like that. This? Really? I know a lot of people have already seen the MS Paint ass tifo, but I've noticed there's not been as much attention on something that I would argue is almost just as bad. Make it happen. This club has a humiliation kink. There's no other explanation here, man. Now, on the other side, though, I'm like 90% sure that the Ashtonbury proposals for their tifo was all made by AI. I get why people didn't notice it at first, because everyone was too busy either laughing at the club or getting angry with them, but look at the first design. There's 2 Martin Odegaards. Onto the second design, this Declan Rice guy kind of looks more like Aaron Ramsey. Last design. Why are the art styles so inconsistent here? London is one of the most fascinating cities for art because of the wide variety of culture and history, and this Ultras group scammed 12K out of people for an AI-generated design. I never want to hear another person make fun of MLS fan culture ever again. But hey, it's only 1-0. I mean, you know, it's not over yet. You know, Arsenal's still very much in it. Look at me, alright? Look at me, okay? Be serious for a second, alright? We just went a whole 90 minutes at home without scoring a goal. And you expect us to score at the park? Are we really this delusional? Abso-fucking-lutely we are.
Wednesday will be PSG.
Little known fact, everyone, Arsenal has never lost in France on a Wednesday. Arsenal has never lost a non-final on a Wednesday. Right off the bat, the Gunners are firing on all cylinders as in just 2 minutes, Declan Rice nearly heads home the much-needed equalizer. Just a minute later, a long throw-in meets Martinelli, but it's saved brilliantly by Donnarumma. It's not even been 10 minutes and Arsenal just keep packing the punches. They need to capitalize, but once again, Donnarumma is there. Hold strong, Gunner Nation. It is only a matter of time.
Fabian Ruiz! Brilliant!
Don't lose hope yet, fellas. Into the hour mark. Here's Bukayo Saka with an inch-perfect call. Would you fuck off, Donnarumma? But what's this I'm seeing? Referees checking something? Potential penalty for Arsenal? Oh my god, he's going to the monitor. We might actually have ourselves a lifeline. Oh no. Well, it was a nice journey while it lasted, everyone. Oh my god, it's saved. There's still a chance. Come on, Arsenal. Make us believe again.
Artist lost that one. Here's Hakimi!
Yeah, no. It's over. It's entirely over. Now 3 goals down on aggregate, Arsenal at this point are just trying to escape not fully humiliated, and finally we get a goal past Gianluigi Donnarumma. Woohoo! Yippee! Here come Arsenal again though in the 79th minute, and wait, there's Bukayo Saka by himself again.
Saka's there! Oh, what a chance! What a chance!
Please, just kill me. I'm begging you. Someone, please, just put me out of my misery. And just like that, Arsenal go a 5th straight year with no trophy. Meanwhile, Eddie Nketiah, after leaving our institution, won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace, and Tottenham has a European trophy before Arteta.
Do you have any relationship with your Champions League?
What's that? What's a Champions League?
Mikel Arteta. What the fuck goes on in your brain? We had the strongest and deepest defense. Sure, we got unlucky, and sure, match congestion and fatigue doesn't help one bit. But we ended the season with pretty much like 4 healthy defenders. That's no coincidence. We lost Gabriel because apparently 3 points against Fulham is more important than Real Madrid in a few days. Oh, and let's not forget when you played an injured Ben White and then he suffered a longer-term injury because of it. But Maxwell, what if by chance it was Ben White who decided to keep playing? Well, that's a really stupid question, because the manager is supposed to be the one to make sure these players don't make irresponsible decisions. And going back to the whole match congestion and fatigue, future me, put up the image. I can't think of someone more that is exponentially contributing to player fatigue than Mikel Arteta. You're seeing that in numerous players, including Saliba, Gabriel, Odegaard, Saka. One by one, they are either on the verge of a disastrous injury, or they've already had one. Not once have I seen any kind of concern from Arteta about his players' conditions. Quite honestly, I'm hearing more about the dumbass excuses than anything else. Oh, it was actually the ball's fault we lost 2-0 to Newcastle. Oh, PSG's players actually said we were the better team. Just no self-reflection whatsoever. It's fucking pathetic. You know, Arteta, maybe if you made some substitutions earlier than the 85th minute, we wouldn't have it as bad. Again, I know Sterling isn't great, but Bukayo Saka does not need to be playing 71 minutes versus Bolton. Again, the board is to blame for some of this shit, but Arteta is doing, and has been doing, a terrible job of managing his players. Because as he's worked with a lot of our players for more than 3 seasons, I get genuinely terrified when a player goes down, because I fear the decent possibility that that their knee just fucking exploded. And what pisses me off even more is his lack of proactiveness. Like, unless his back is fully pinned against the wall, he's gonna be the same stubborn jackass that won't make a sub until the 7th minute of stoppage time. Tactically, on the other hand, it's kind of hard to really say because I do believe having a proper finisher will fix a lot of problems. But this victimhood mentality that the club constantly has every single season, it's going to be its downfall if it doesn't stop. I'm so sick and tired of the same excuses as to why we didn't win the Premier League. Yeah, we had our problems, but I guess we're just going to ignore that, you know, every other major team except for Liverpool had the same issue, if not worse. City lost Rodri, their defense is abysmal, and also there's a bunch of washed players because City weren't proactive enough, but you don't see them complaining. Chelsea were dealing with the growing pains of having to deal with like 8 million players in your squad. Who could forget Spurs, who probably had to hire someone off of LinkedIn to fill in their bench? And also, by the way, Manchester United were historically shit, and we drew with them. We also drew with Everton, Fulham, Brighton, and then bottled a 2-0 lead away versus Villa. Are we not going to address what we did wrong instead of just looking at the stuff on the surface and then just blaming everything else? I understand it's easy to get caught up in the injuries because, trust me, there were a lot and it was getting a bit concerning. But again, those injuries didn't just happen for no reason at all. Honestly, after 3 years of this, I think the reason we've gone trophyless again really just comes down to the fact that there's a lack of accountability. And until there's more of that, I'm sorry, but this team will have the same fate as Tottenham in the mid-2010s. I'll end it off on this. Am I Arteta in? Am I Arteta out? I'm definitely not Arteta in, but it's hard for me still to really say full out Arteta out. If next season we run into the same lack of accountability and all, then yeah, you're simply not winning with him. But my fear has always been the fact that we have gone so far deep into this process, not really achieved anything, and I just fear that we've gone way too deep to even really come out of it. And Mikel does seem to have his players backing him, and no matter the situation, when you take someone with that kind of influence out, it's hard to adapt to another manager. Also, I know some people are like, oh, where's the Arsenal Legacy of Failures video? Man, just give me like a year to emotionally recover.
Arsenal are coming, never losing hope, we're making something out.